Hi everyone. Let's see, I think we have 77 participants and we have all the panelists with us, so we are ready to go, I guess. Let's see. Great. Hi once again. Greetings from the International Office. I'm your host, Jasim. Before we begin, some practical information. This session will be recorded and later we will put a copy of this feed onto our JU web and on our YouTube channel in next couple of days. Please write your questions in the Q&A function and kindly avoid chat function. We will answer all of the questions at the end of this webinar. So our today's topic of webinar is pre-departure. What is it about? Well, we understand that leaving your home for studies and coming to a completely new place may be challenging. Some of you may still be unsure. Some of you may be confused if JU is the choice of your future. Some of you may be in the midst of making the tuition payments, some making traveling plans, and some perhaps confused about migrations, the residence permit application, and this is only for the non-EU students. And some of you might be concerned about insurances, student support functions, and so on and so forth. We care and offer any assistance that makes your decision-making simple. So we have invited guests who are experts in their domains from admissions, accommodation, and student union. I have prepared a list of most frequent asked questions by our students, which I will be asking our guests. If we miss out on any information, you will have the opportunity to raise your questions at the end of this webinar, and we will try our best to answer them. Since this webinar is practically around pre-departure, so we will keep questions for admissions and accommodation confined within this domain. However, we do have recorded webinars where we have discussed admissions and accommodation and student support in detail previously. So you will have, you can find these recordings on our JU web and also on our YouTube channel. I will begin by asking questions to admissions first, then we will move over to accommodation, and lastly, we will speak with student union. Hi, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for joining in, helping with our FAQs. So I will begin, I think. So one of the very first questions we get during these times is, will the autumn semester start on time?
And the answer is yes.
And so we are on time.
So the 22nd of August is when you should be here. Karin will talk about the pickup service that is available. But most of the mandatory roll calls will be held on Monday, August 22nd. So you should have arrived before then.
Okay.
Preferably.
And the other question could be, can I defer my studies until August 2023?
Perhaps. It depends on the reason that you have for wanting a deferment. To be eligible for deferment, it has to be a reason that has occurred after you applied. Something like illness that was unplanned, or a pregnancy that was unplanned, or military conscription, or things like that. Tuition fee paying students, they have to have confirmed, that means paid, the tuition fee to be eligible for deferment. So that means that you can't defer because you can't pay.
Okay.
So that's not a deferment possibility. Then you just reapply next year.
Okay, good. What about refund policy if someone is not able to arrive due to current situation or any other personal reason?
We have our refund policy on on our web. So basically, I want to talk about the information that you've already received in the letter of acceptance.
Okay.
That's where it states that if you, for some reason, can't arrive in time before August 22nd, you have to contact the admissions office. So basically, what's written in your letter of acceptance, no matter if you're fee-paying or EU student, read your letter of acceptance and follow those instructions. Because if you haven't contacted anyone and you're not at the mandatory roll call, you lose your admission. So you have to notify us if there's something that happens. And so the tuition fee policy and the refund policy can be found on our web through the link in the letter of acceptance for the tuition fee paying students.
Wonderful. I know that there are still some countries where pandemic is still going on, and can that affect application for residence permit for studies?
It could, because it's always what is happening in the country where you are that determines what happens to your application. So for non-EU students who are in a country outside of the EU, if something happens and the country starts closing down, and perhaps then the Swedish embassies are forced to close. So it's not something that the staff at the Swedish embassies, they don't make those decisions. They have to follow what is stated in that specific country.
And what about, do students need negative COVID test to enter Sweden?
This has been back and forth discussed a lot. So we still don't really know what will be in effect when we get to August. But basically, if you can show that you have a negative test, or that you have 2 or 3 vaccine doses, that should help. But it's always best to check with the Sweden Abroad information website. I can put up the links for that in just a little bit.
Wonderful. We also get quite a lot of questions around insurances, and so could you explain a bit about that?
So let's start with EU citizens. So if you're a citizen of an EU or EEA country or Switzerland, you should register for the European Health Insurance Card in your home country before you come to Sweden. So if for some reason you can't obtain that card, you have to arrange your own comprehensive insurance, because medical care can be quite expensive if you're not insured. This can happen if, say, for example, someone is born in Brazil from Portuguese parents. So you're Portuguese citizen, that means you're an EU citizen, but you've never lived in Portugal. So that means that you won't be able to get the European health insurance card from Portugal because you've never lived in Portugal. So then you have to get an insurance from your country when you travel to Sweden, because then if your study program, and this is for everyone, EU and fee paying, if your study program is 2 years or 3 years, you should register in the Swedish population registry when you get to Sweden and when you have registered your studies. And you do that at the tax office. And then you get a Swedish personal number. You are then covered by the Swedish state health insurance. But you need to inform us about your changing this number. When you get here, you'll receive, or you have already received, a temporary student ID number. But if you get a permanent Swedish personal number, it's going to be yours whether you leave Sweden and never set foot in this country again. But no one else is going to get the same number as you. So you need to inform us that you have gotten this number, because our system is not connected to the tax office system in any way. So you have to inform us.
But this they can only get once they have arrived here.
Once they have arrived. So you can't, it's not possible to do that beforehand, because you need to go there in person, and you have to show that you are registered. You have to show that you're going to be here in Sweden for more than 365 days. So that means a 2 or 3 year program. Because if your study program is 1 year or less, when we come to, pathway students, for example, a 1 year study program is not 12 months, it's 10 months. Mm-hmm. So that means you will not be registered in the Swedish population registry. So you need to have a comprehensive health insurance from your own country. Because if you have any pre-existing conditions and you need to visit a doctor for follow-up meetings, that won't be covered. All our students are covered by an emergency during school hours or study hours. The fee-paying students, through the fee, is also covered with an emergency health insurance. And the information for that is in your letter of acceptance. So fee-paying students, you have received the information about the insurance in your letter of acceptance. So the letter of acceptance is not only proof of admission when you contact the migration agency and apply for a residence permit, but it is also proof of the emergency medical insurance. Mm-hmm. And that's all you need with the migration agency, because that's all you need according to them. Yeah. But please note that this medical emergency insurance is not covering any pre-existing conditions. I mean, that could be diabetes, asthma, something like that, and it won't cover that. So that means you have to have additional insurance if you're not studying for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, great, wonderful. What if some students have, problem arriving on time by August 23rd? What is the advice for them? What shall they do?
Follow the instructions in the letter of acceptance where it says contact the admissions office. Mm-hmm. So email the admissions office and tell us what the delay is or what the problem is. And then we're going to try to guide you as best we can, because it will depend on what the issue is.
And we get a lot of questions from the non-EU students about, because since they have to apply for their residence permit, so we get a lot of questions around migrations related queries. So what is the advice for them? I mean, how can we help them?
Just to know that the university can't ask questions on your behalf. We would have to have a power of attorney, and we can't do that for several hundred students at a time. So try to read through the information available on the migration agency's website. They have pretty much a checklist of what you need, the documents that you need to show. We also have this information
on our web.
On our web. So basically, make sure that you read that and prepare these documents in time. You have to, for instance, you need to show that you can support yourself, that you have money enough. So that means that you have to show a bank statement. This means that it's your bank statement. The student who's studying, your name must be on the bank statement. If you have more than one account, get all of them. Basically, it's the combined amount of money that you have. So if you have savings in several accounts, show them everything. And the bank statement should be in English. So perhaps it has to be translated for some countries. It should also be clear what the currency is on the bank statement. If it's rupees or anything else, it has to show that it is rupees, because otherwise the migration agency won't know how to translate it into Swedish krona. Great.
Thanks, Charlotte. So I think this is pretty much it, and then we can look forward to the questions raised by our attendees later on. So now we move over to accommodation. Karin, thank you for joining in.
Thank you for being here.
And helping us out with accommodation-related FAQs. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Perfect. How and when do I register my arrival? So this is one of the questions we get quite often.
Yeah, you will receive an email telling you that the accommodation the arrival registration is open from July 1st to the 20th.
Okay. And so they should wait for the email to come to them.
Yeah.
Okay. And do I always have to announce my arrival? So this is also another question we get from students.
Yes, to be guaranteed the accommodation, you need to announce your arrival.
Okay, sorry.
Are you live?
Yeah. Can I receive information about accommodation beforehand?
No, you have the opportunity to wish or state 3 housing options, but you will not get the information which one you will receive before you get here.
Okay.
But hopefully you will get one of the 3 options.
Okay. Can I access my accommodation before the pickup weekend?
Yes, it depends which accommodation that you will receive, but we always recommend you to get here during the pickup days, since we will pick you up at the station, bus and train station, drive you to the university and drive you to your accommodation. But of course, if you want to be here before, then to be sure to get your accommodation before, I suggest that you be here, let's see here, August 15. Okay. Some of the accommodation will be available from August 1st as well.
But they get this information on the letter they receive or the information they receive from accommodation?
Yes.
Okay. What if I'm not given the accommodation that I have chosen and want to change?
Unfortunately, it's not possible to change accommodation. And most of the times you will get the one of the 3 options. So, and if you don't, I think we will consider the other options, that if you want to stay close to the university, if you want the low rent, we will try to fix something for you that will suit you.
Great. Yeah. Will I get a shared or a single room?
You will get a single room if you haven't specially applied for a shared room.
Do you use temporary housing?
I would say no at the moment, since we have housing for everyone. But it has been done before, but I don't think we will do it this year, so don't worry.
If I arrive mid-semester, do I still have to pay full rent?
Yes,
Yes.
because the room or the apartment is booked for you as a student. So then you have to pay for the full semester.
When do I have to pay my rent and deposit?
It depends on where you live, but if you have like the semester rent, where you pay for the whole semester in one installment, then you pay in, I think, in the beginning of October. Otherwise, you pay in August when you arrive, if you have the monthly rent.
Do I need home insurance, and how do I get it?
You need the home insurance. We recommend you to have it, but you have to arrange it from your home country. You can't buy it here since you don't have the personal number.
But once they get the personal number,
sorry.
Once they get the personal number, they can get the home insurance here.
I think it has been quite difficult since they will be here for such a short period. But I think, Charlotte, you have maybe more information regarding that. Or
I'm not really sure how the insurance companies, because even if you get a Swedish personal number, that doesn't guarantee that you can get insurance the same way that the Swedish, basically the Swedish personal number gets you the health insurance, but you're not guaranteed other types of
yeah, I think we did the accommodation webinar, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we have done very specified webinars for admissions and accommodation and student union before. So if you go there, I think you'll find this information on that webinar that students can get home insurance. And we do have information for that because I think Susanna mentioned about something around that. So once you come here, once you get your personal number, so I think it is possible. It is not mandatory to get it, but it is highly advised that you should get it for your own security and safety.
Yeah.
Great. I think that is pretty much it, but we could look forward to the Q&A function session later on, and we can see if we get more questions around accommodation. So lastly, I think I will turn over to Sophia. How are you, Sophia?
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you for joining in and helping us with information on student union and stuff around it.
Yes.
So, well, I can just, briefly ask if you could briefly explain what student union is and what are the main functions.
Yeah. So I'm the president right now of Jönköping Student Union, and globally it varies a little bit what union does, but in Sweden every campus has a student union, and we work to ensure that everyone feels included and supported and safe on campus. And that in reality means that we look after and try to monitor that all your rights are lived after by JUN generally. But then we also work for the study social parts to make sure that you actually have a really good time while you're here. So there are two parts to it, and the prioritized one is to ensure that you have a good quality of your education, you can influence your studies and so on, you have good conditions to study and to succeed in your studies. And study social is kind of part of good conditions to succeed, because you kind of need a life outside studies to really succeed in your studies. So that's what we do in very short terms.
Wonderful. And what should they expect during this year, where we will have more of a normal life after COVID?
Yeah, I think you can start with the beginning. So August 22nd, the kickoff starts. And that's 10 days where you get introduced to the study social life and to your friends, your classmates and everything. If you arrive a little bit late, you will be able to join, but the kickoff is during the first 10 days. So if you can come afterwards, then the kickoff is over, but you will have plenty of opportunity to still meet a lot of friends and your classmates and so on. But we have introduction weeks where it's full of activities, full of team building things and so on. And when you get here after roll call, you will have older students, which we call fathers, that are going to take care of you for the first 10 days.
Which you call fathers.
Fathers, yes, they're called
Yes.
fathers. In Swedish, is faddrar, and fathers isn't really a proper English, but it's the best one we have. So that's what we're going for. And as an international student, you can also apply to our buddy system. So you actually get a buddy meanwhile, like part for a little bit longer part. So the father is for the first 10 days. And if you apply for a buddy, you should be able to get one for kind of the whole semester. And then it varies a little bit on how much you connect with each other. But you get an older student living here, either Swedish or an international student who has been here for a while, that can kind of guide you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then throughout the year, in terms of the study social, we have around 50 groups, and they produce like 5 to 6 events per week. So I don't think anyone needs to worry about that there's nothing to do. And especially for the internationals, there's also a lot of trips going on. Of course, you have to kind of look at your schedule academically and see if that fits in. All other activities are adjusted to the academic schedules, but the trips are not. So there you have to take an extra look so you don't miss something important in school. But there are trips as well. So, and of course, there's Jönköping is in kind of middle of the south of Sweden, so not in the middle of the Sweden, but most of us live in the southern part, so it's quite easy to go to Stockholm or Gothenburg or even Copenhagen in Denmark. Like if you want to see the Sweden, that's also quite possible from where Jönköping is located. So that's in terms of study social. And also to bring with you, of course, is that if you run into any kind of problem academic wise, in terms of the teacher and so on, when you have started studying, then you can turn to us. If there's anything with admissions and everything now beforehand, you have to turn to JU and admissions office, and we have and accommodations and so on. We can't really help before you get here, but after you get here, we are here for you.
Wonderful. And
I can give some examples, of course, more on study social parts and everything if we have time for that.
Yeah, please, you could, you're welcome to do that. We have,
you can, of course, use the Q&A to ask some questions about the study social life and so on.
I do have a question, actually. I mean, I know that we do provide Mecenat, the card, the student card, which gives a lot of different exciting rebates and stuff. So if you could explain about that. And
yeah, so a benefit of going at JU, you have to be a member of the student union, but with that membership, apart from all the study social activities you get access to and the kickoff and so on, and us helping you out, you also get discounts. And if you're good at using them, you will get back your fee, the student union fee, very, very quickly. So you get, for example, discounts on bus tickets and everything locally, but you also have a lot of discounts in terms of can be computers, clothes, food is sometimes, but it can be really anything. And you have sometimes local discounts where you just have to prove you're a student, but you also have a lot of national ones. So it's called Mecenat, but you get more information on that also when you get here. But it's really, again, you get the feedback very, very quickly. And of course, if you're a tuition paying student, the student union fee is included. So then you get even an extra benefit kind of from that. But it's really something to work to keep updated, because they're always coming in new discounts. There are a lot of campaigns and so on, and some has permanent discounts. So that's also really something to check out and note down on a to-do list. That's nothing you have to do absolutely the 22nd or the first week when you get here, but like during the first month, really take a look at it and get used to using it, because then you can save a lot of money. And I know that Sweden is expensive for some of you who are coming here, so then the discounts is really, really something that can help you if you think it's a little bit expensive, because we know that that's how it is. In terms of other study social things, like examples of what you find on campus, under the student union, so we have subgroups, and they deal with, for example, we have sports. They have 10 different sports, so it's all from futsal, it's ultimate frisbee, it's swimming, it's a lot of things, and actually kind of unique for Sweden is that we have our own sports hall. And we don't have the same maybe college sports yet as the US, for example, are famous for, but we really have great conditions in Jönköping. And if there are other sports we don't have and you're interested in, there's always the possibility to connect with local clubs and so on. We have esports, for example. We also have, so we actually have, this is also a studio of DreamHack for the gamers out there. I'm an amateur gamer myself, so it's actually really exciting to be able to be for that. But we have our own student association who deals and try and like have both just friendly games, but also a bit more competitive. We have sustainability association that deals with all of these kind of questions and try and help us improve campus and so on. So you can really have an impact in so many different ways. And then you have dancing, you have board games, you have a lot of groups who just do different kind of events, just social events to go to. Here in Sweden, we have a culture of something called sittningar, and you will learn what that is when you get here the first week. So I'm not going to spoil it too much, but it's really, really fun. But just social events with a lot of specs and just a lot of activities going on. So either you can just go to all of these things, because that is the right you have as a student here, or you actually choose to involve yourself. So, or you do both, of course. But there also, you have a group that actually holds its own fashion show every year. So that's also pretty cool. But there's a lot. And then you have international committees that's specifically here for you guys that you can join and, you know, get together. We try and work with integration as much as possible because it's amazing when we can meet each other, but the internationals have also a little bit of their own group. So we try and balance that out, that internationals have the possibility to meet each other, but then that we really bring everyone together. One great event that we have is something called Food Safari, for example. So you prepare a dish at your own house, for example, an appetizer, and then you get to visit 2 other locations for a dinner and a dessert. And that's incredible. Like that's just, you get to meet so many people, and I think that's just a great example of how you work with integration and in just social environments. So it's just, the list is so long, so you can go to our webpage to take a look on the different groups that exist. And the best part is that if you, after all the things it is, find something my thing is not on the list here. For example, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. And we actually don't have a Harry Potter club. So if I hadn't started at the union, I think I would have started a club for that. You have all the possibilities to create something of your own as well. And it doesn't have to be for 3 years. Like, it's enough with 1 year, or maybe you just want to do a one-time event, like, I don't know, a quiz night, or it could be anything that you use. Like, this is what I want to do. And then you can come to the union and we will try and help our absolute best that you can get that together. So there's so many possibilities of going on things and then just getting involved in a student life. And of course, I'm a little bit biased, but even if you're here just for a semester, or especially if you're here for a longer period of time, like, get engaged. Like, there's so much benefits from it. Friends, connections, you get merged into the internationalization, and you meet Sweden. Like, it's just a completely different experience on top of just moving here, of course, and having your education and so on. And again, I'm biased because I have been involved practically my whole student life, and you don't have to, you will have a great time anyway, but I would very, very much recommend that you find something that you like and get involved.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sophia, for sharing so much interesting information with us. I think we are kind of done, and we should head towards our Q&A function, and the session can start here with, let's see, what kind of questions have we got so far? I think I can begin from 317, 318, okay. Yeah, if I deny my acceptance for this year, would I be able to apply again next year?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think maybe he's trying to ask if he should apply with the new documentation, or what I kind of think that maybe he's interested to know that.
Well, it depends on if you applied through university admissions. There you have an account and your documents and everything is there under your account. If you applied directly to Jönköping University through our website, our system is not as integrated as university admissions. It is a completely separate system. Then you are going to have to upload everything again. Okay.
And how is the reserved list progressing? And is there still a chance for receiving an email of acceptance?
We have called several on all the different reserve lists. Of course, we utilize separate admission for EU students and fee-paying students. So that means that if you're on the waiting list for EU students, you're not going to be offered a fee-paying place, basically. But I think that if you haven't heard anything by June 8th, it's probably not, probably not going to be called.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We have to arrive before 22nd of August. Because the pathway year general starts 29th of August.
Yeah.
I think we got confused with the information.
Yeah. Bachelor and master programs, you have to be here on the 22nd of August. Pathway will start on the 29th of August. So again, look at your letter of acceptance. The dates are there.
When do we get an invitation for the roll call?
ju.se/new student, that website will be updated with all the necessary information. So that is the information for the roll call. So that is where you should go and find your program and find when and where and what time the roll call will be. So again, ju.se/new student. That's the answer.
Are there appointments organized from the university to register for the citizens number? We used to have, right?
Yeah, and I think we have had sometimes the tax office, they come to campus to answer questions. But more information about that will be available when you get here in August. And so when you get here, the service center in the middle of our campus, that's the place to go for quick information like this. And also, once you register and activate your JU account, you will be able to download the JU app where you get notifications of the stuff happening. So that's also a suggestion. It might also be that this information could come up on the new student website. So again, check that website.
I'm not so sure if I understand the next question, but when is the admissions coming out? No.
I'm not sure what this one means. Basically, if you applied through university admissions, you have already received your selection results. If you apply directly, we notify as soon as the process is completed. So if it's an applicant for one of our business programs at the International Business School, and you might have to go through the interview process, then that takes time as well. So either you have already received the notification or check your emails, because there might be in the spam folder perhaps that you missed something, information from us.
I think the next question is a bit strange, but maybe I'll try to comprehend what is written. I have the visa time for Embassy of Sweden. They asked me to show 860 euros every month. I have already paid my tuition fee, and I have accommodation and food too. I don't understand what does that mean. So I
That
want
means
you to tell.
pathway.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a pathway
okay.
student. Okay, that's odd because we have already informed the migration agency on several occasions that pathway year and pathway semester students, they have accommodation and food for the entire pathway studies, the 5 months or the 10 months. So in this case, I don't really know. Please send an email to the pathway admissions and we'll see what we can help you with.
Majid, please send the email to pathway admissions. How much does it cost to live for a month in Jönköping? It's a very broad question, I think.
Yeah, it depends how much you want to
pay for the accommodation.
Pay for accommodation. Using of the mecenat card with all the discounts, like Sophia talked about. But basically, there's the migration agency has calculated
around 860
around 830 850 euros per month to be able to live.
I can maybe add as a student myself.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the translating to euros and everything. But so as a student in Sweden, as a Swedish student, you get support and you can take a loan from the government. And I don't exactly know how much that is in euro, but it's around 11,000 in Swedish crowns, and then you can calculate
1,100 euros.
Oh, yeah, okay, so approximately 1,100 euros, and that is enough for most of us, and kind of includes a little bit of living. Sometimes I'm actually surprised how much money some students can spend on partying, despite having fairly slim limits on living on. And again, this is Swedish standard, so like it will depend a lot on your accommodation. My accommodation right now is fairly, I would say, fairly expensive compared to the grant you get. So I spend almost 50% of the grant you would get from the government. But accommodation cost varies so much, and then the food is in Sweden for a lot of internationals quite expensive. So what is expensive for me is not going to be expensive for maybe you. But around what we get, also 1,100 euros, is what I think we as students feel like is a standard, so we can live a little as well. And then if you want to travel and everything, then it's maybe extra. So that's a little bit more than maybe what the migration has calculated, but that depends on, like, if you're smart with, especially with food and maybe picking accommodation that are like a little bit not so expensive, then you actually have a pretty, you will have a pretty good student life here.
Karin, correct me if I'm wrong. We have accommodation which ranges from approximately 300 euros to 700 euros.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So it's quite a big plan.
Again, I mean, if you're choosing around 300 euros, then it's one of the cheapest options we have. Then obviously your big cost is going to be, taken away. If you choose 700 euros, then you're adding 400 euros extra to your monthly expenses.
Yeah.
I mean, a part of your student life is also where you live and what kind of student life you want. So maybe it's not only about the cost, but how you wanna live a little bit. And of course, that's sometimes hard to tell before you get here, and so on. But you also have a very different student life if you're just here for half a month or half a year, a semester. If you're an exchange student, or I mean, if you spend 3 years here, for example, as a bachelor student or a master student for at least 2 years and even 1 year, you will be able to find out if you actually want to move and so on. So like, it's not impossible to change a bit of your situation too if you find out that you want to have it in a different way. So I think that's also something that's good to remember if you're staying here for a longer period of time. And it's also, of course, in terms of jobs, that can also affect the income and so on. And it's of course easier for Swedish students to get jobs, but it's not impossible for international students either. I think it's become better and better actually.
I agree.
Jobs. So that's also something, and usually you can juggle studies, being involved, and work, but then you have to be careful on how much time you put on each, of course. If you want to work at 50%, yeah, then maybe your social life or your studies, and I'm not going to tell you which you should choose, but I think we're all here for one thing in the beginning, and that's the studies. So like that of course depends too, if you're prepared, or like most Swedes work as well, because we want a little bit of an extra cash and per month. So like that's possible, but it's not as easy to find as for Swedish students. So sometimes it's hard to maybe count on it like 100% too, but it's definitely a possibility. And then again, it's how much time you spend on each thing.
Because
I should also,
if you're a non-EU student and you have a residence permit for studies, there's going to be a requirement that you complete a certain number of credits each year. So if you work more and your studies are paying the price, they might send you home. So
yeah,
the studies is the number one.
I mean,
exactly.
even if you as a maybe GU student have you maybe you're not going to be sent home, but of course really be careful with like not sacrificing your studies, because that is going to end up with a lot of issues later on as well. I mean, again, we're here for something from the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. Paulina is asking, does the Swedish government help international students? I don't understand that, but
Me neither. But if the question is,
she's from maybe Ukraine or
Poland or
so please clarify your question.
Basically, EU students. We don't have scholarships for EU students, and most EU students cannot get a loan or from the Swedish government, student aid from the Swedish government, because you have to have already been living in Sweden for quite some time to be eligible for that.
Okay.
So you have to get that on your own.
If I have a dependent, what about insurance for her? I think you need to arrange that on your own.
Yeah.
Ravi?
Because if you have a dependent that you bring, even if you're both going to be here for more than 12 months, and you can get a Swedish personal number, to be able to get a personal number, you have to show that you have insurance. So that means as a student, you can show that you have for instance, fee-paying students, you have the emergency insurance. If your dependent has no insurance, getting a personal number for your dependent could be very difficult, because you have to show that your dependent has insurance to get insurance.
Does the European health insurance and card operates like my own insurance just in Sweden, or does it mean my home insurance covers everything in Sweden because of the card?
I don't know what it means when the combination of home insurance.
Exactly.
The European health insurance, basically because of the card, you have to bring the card if you visit a doctor, and then you pay what Swedish citizens pay for the medical meeting and treatment, and then your country is billed the remainder, because that's the reciprocal. If Swedish people bring their European health insurance card to another country, they have the same there. But when it comes to home insurances, that's not covered across borders. No.
May I ask, what is the main teaching model in JU? Distance learning or on-campus learning? It's on campus. What is the earliest date that I can enter the dormitory, Karin?
Yeah, as I said before, I guess it will depend on which accommodation that you will get, but to be sure that your accommodation will be ready, I would say August 15.
Okay.
And to be able to use the pickup service, then you will come here August 18 to 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
What things should be taken from home when I come to Sweden?
To the accommodation, or?
I mean, that's not really. Yeah, it's a general question, actually.
I think that first off, in terms of bringing, take a look at the weather and depending on where you come from. So in autumn, it's when you come here, hopefully we usually have good weather for the kickoff and in September. So it can be, for us at least as a Swede, surprisingly warm. So it's around 20, 25 degrees, but really I would advise take a look on the weather if you're joining and if you're here for the autumn and especially the winter. It's not northern part of Sweden, but we still get some snow and we still get a couple of -degrees and it can be quite rainy. So, and it's of course fully possible, like you will always find those types of clothes here to buy as well, but sometimes you need to save the spaces in your suitcases. And I mean, apart from that, bring the things like things for school, like you will need a laptop, for example, you will need phones, and you need to look at the practical things in terms of adapters and everything depending on where you come from and so on. So but if you have something more specific, maybe take the chance with
sure.
So asking the Q&A again if there's something specific you're wondering about, because otherwise it's closed on yourself, or if there's something you're afraid of that you're not going to be able to find here. Like, I mean, sometimes it's maybe if you're allowed, so check the customs things as well with food and everything, because some things you're not allowed to bring, but sometimes it's nice to bring something that reminds you of home too. I would say that's what I felt when I went abroad, at least, and then I didn't go very far. But definitely clothes depending on where you come from, and if you're staying here for a while. So.
Mohammed Afan is asking, I have an acceptance letter for Pathway Year General leading to Bachelor's in International Management. Will I get 10 months visa or should I apply for 13 months visa?
You can only apply for a residence permit for the duration of what is stated on your letter of acceptance. So that means you can only apply for the dates on your letter of acceptance for the Pathway Year General. You will have to, after you have completed that is when you will get a letter of acceptance for the follow-up program if you've been pre-assessed, and only then can you apply for an extension of the permit that you have. So only what you have received the letter of acceptance for is what you can apply for.
Is it possible for me to work part-time while attending school, like job paid for by the school? Well, we don't have the same, I think, options like US, for example. We don't have on-campuses job positions, not many, I would say, but you can work part-time, obviously. And Sophia and Lotta had already mentioned quite much detail about it. So we'll move over to the next question. I rented an apartment on my own because I will be living with my boyfriend. Do I have to inform this to the JU accommodation office?
No, if he or she has applied for accommodation, of course, he or she needs to tell us. Yeah.
Ravi is asking, my wife was doing her master's in Uppsala University, but due to some medical emergency, she took leave till 2023. Now she's planning to apply RP to residence permit to visit me. So do the insurance in Uppsala enough to apply for residence permit and also to get personal number for her I think you should send us an email, Ravi, because this is very specific, and we should, yeah. Thomas is asking, do the study accommodation have parking spots for cars, and do we need to rent them?
It varies. So if you really want like a free parking for your car, I suggest that you apply for Ekhagen, because there you have free parking. Otherwise, you have to rent the parking spot.
Okay. If I'm an EU student, you would also recommend me to make passport. If I have passport, the Swedish documents will arrive faster. I don't know how to.
I'm trying to. Is it Jonat?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I think perhaps you're talking about the chats keep jumping, so we lose. We have like several questions that we haven't been able to answer, but basically, I think what you're talking about is the that you have a national ID, a European national ID you can travel on. But basically, a passport gives you better access and quicker through customs or whatnot. I'm not really sure what to recommend.
Okay.
Basically, a national ID is sufficient.
Yeah. I applied Pathway General. This is Sangpan is asking, I applied Pathway General. Oh, that's gone. I don't know where I applied for Pathway General.
Every time someone puts in a new one, it jumps to the bottom. For some.
Applied Pathway, yeah, exactly. So
yeah, but Chanticha Sangpan, send an email. Send us an email to the Pathway admissions.
So where are we right now with the questions? Now I'm also confused.
Yeah.
Are we on the bottom or are we on?
Let me get back to the very top at 318. It was the if it was possible to work, and then Samira says, can I use the pickup service if I come by car?
Yes, if you if you leave
drop off at the campus, or drop off at the
you can just, if you will be dropped off by someone, you can of course come to the campus and we will drive you to your accommodation.
Can the pickup service accept parents?
Sorry, can the pickup service?
Okay, basically she's asking if she has her parents with her, will the pickup service drop both her and her parents off?
No, just the student.
What should I do for registering accommodation, because I haven't received my temporary login?
Okay, then you need to send us an email and we will check it up for you.
Are pets allowed in the student accommodation?
No.
If you come sooner, like August 15th, do you have a priority of choice on the accommodation?
No. Short answers.
Yeah. Sammy also said, or is it already randomly assigned before arrival? Yes.
Yeah.
It's health insurance required for dependent family members for 2 years master program. Again, any dependent you bring has to have health insurance in order to get the Swedish health insurance through the personal number. So to get the personal number, you have to have insurance. When we will know which accommodation we receive, I think, Karin, you said that in the very beginning.
Yeah,
when you get here.
Yeah.
When you get here.
Muhammad asked the same that we've already answered. Paulina's asking, are both bachelor's and master students, do they live in the same accommodation?
Yeah, we mix all kind of students. Yeah, at the accommodations.
Fatima says, I live in Gothenburg. Is there any portal to apply for accommodation aside from Studbo?
No, Studbo is for the Swedish students with the Swedish person number, so you can apply from there. Then, of course, you can contact the local housing companies as well. But I think Studbo is the best place to apply. If you're not an international student, of course.
Another one that says temporary login, perhaps the same one. But again, if you haven't received the temporary login to apply for accommodation, send an email to the accommodations office so they can help you.
Yes.
Oh, this one. Would you be able to advise me on accommodation for a dependent? Is the accommodation provided by the uni? Can it also be used for the dependent?
For family member, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, we don't provide accommodation for family members or friends. So it's only for the students. If you come here with your family, you have to arrange something by yourself.
How long does it take for a student to get a response for the late application? If Sandra is talking about late application in university admissions, that would depend on what you have applied for. Best thing is send an email to the admissions office to ask that. Can the bank statement be in your husband's name if you're traveling together?
If you're the student, then no.
No. If you, the student, you are making the main application for studies, that means that your husband is then your dependent. And that means that you have to show that you have your own money. Can I apply for accommodation without a letter of acceptance due to being put on the reserve list?
No, I think they have to be admitted first.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you have to be admitted first.
Yeah.
Arrival, where did that? Why is my webcam not working? Your webcams are not working. Only the four of us.
I have no idea where you're reading these questions because my screen is all.
Yeah, I know. Joseph is asking, if I'm coming to study with my spouse and child, I should find accommodation on my own, right? Should I inform about the accommodation that I found to my university?
No.
No.
But if you have applied already, then you have to send us an email and take away the application, so to speak.
Yeah. The accommodation we get from the university, does it have an address we can use? I heard to apply for personal number, we need to have an address that we own.
Yes,
no.
You will be able to use that address. When you get the accommodation, you can, that is what you register with at the Swedish tax authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where you got the information that you have to own a place where that I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's enough with the rental agreement, which says sign.
Yeah. How about if I come and my accommodation is nothing like the ones I applied for, and it makes my staying in the city uncomfortable and not likable?
Then the student, oh, sorry, I just, then you come and, sorry, then you come and visit the accommodation office and we will try to sort it out for you, but I think you will like it.
Yeah.
Swedish citizen got an admission. What next? This is the pre-departure for international students who applied in the international rounds. If you're talking about Swedish round, just send in your question to the admissions office and we'll see what we can figure out. When do we know if we got accepted in the Swedish course? After the application for the Swedish course has closed. So not yet. I have applied for Global Studies 2 years program. How much money should be in the bank statement? That information is, the migration agency gives examples on their website. So that means if it's a 2-year program and you're applying for a 2-year residence permit, you should just look at the amount for 12 months and just double that. That's the easiest. Does Jönköping University provide Swedish lessons? Yes, you can apply for the Swedish course that another attendee just asked about, and it's open for application now, and you can find that on our website and how to apply. What do you do as a student after you've gotten your control number and confirmation email from the migration agency? Do you go ahead and book an appointment or wait for a decision? That's a question for the migration agency. That's we don't really know.
Or the embassy. Or the embassy.
Or the embassy. Yeah, the migration agency or the embassy. Because depending on which country you live in, it could be different. So you need to check that with your embassy. Swedish language course, is it free of charge? For EU students, yes, because EU students do not pay tuition fee. Tuition fee paying students, they have to pay the tuition fee for the Swedish language course, which currently is 7,500 Swedish kronor. I have no idea if I have already registered for accommodation or not. I can log in to Happy. Does it mean I have already registered for accommodation?
You have to log in and apply to pick one of the or 3 of the housing options. But if you don't know, then send us an email and we can check it for you.
Again, late applicants, send your question to the admissions office when it comes to late applications, because we need to know exactly who you are, what you applied for, when you made the application. It's not a general, we can't give a general answer. Mehtap is asking, is studying a 2nd year at university in Turkey. Some common courses with the courses I will take at JU. Do I have chance to have those courses accepted at your university and not take them again? That would be something you would have to discuss with a study counselor once you've gotten here, and you have to bring transcripts and course plans to see if any credits can be transferred. Someone wrote an appeal but haven't received any feedback. Again, that's not something we can answer here. And if the appeal has been sent to the Board of Appeals, it's their timetable, not ours. So we can't say when you will get an answer, unfortunately. What do I have to do when I finish my bachelor's degree in Germany? My degree isn't granted before the start of the master's in August. That means that you've been conditionally admitted. Master students, you can just start your master's studies at the Jönköping University, and then you can show your bachelor's degree, in this case, the urkunde, when you get it. As soon as you get it. Again, late application, we don't. Can student work part-time around the city? Like Sophia said, it's possible, it's not impossible for international students to find a job. But again, you shouldn't work more than to be able to cope with your studies as well.
Add something because it's also for the accommodation. You have to have 15 credits per semester to stay at an accommodation. So if you don't manage your studies, then you don't have an accommodation.
Guaranteed by us, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But also other housing or can have the same requirements, that if you're living in a student housing, no matter who you pay the rent to, can have those regulations that you have to be a student.
Yes.
Most student accommodation has that requirement. So.
Yeah, so that goes for the Swedish students as well. So that's where there's no difference between Swedish or international students. You have to be a student to live in student accommodation.
Yeah, but I think that, again, to you guys who are listening to this panel, what you're asking for is a part-time, like maybe every other weekend or doing a couple of evenings and so on. That is possible. But if you're looking for maybe more than, let's say, 20 hours a month, then at least you won't have much of a social life, because again, the studies is nothing you should compromise with. Like, regardless of what kind of student you are, as a Swedish student, you shouldn't do that either with the accommodation. And we have a requirement in terms of the grant we receive and so on. So, but if you're thinking about every other weekend, possibly every weekend and a couple of nights, that's possible.
Yeah.
But then again, it's finding those jobs, but it's possible.
Yeah. Do I need to apply for insurance to get a residence permit, or is page 2 of the acceptance enough? Again, to apply for a residence permit, all you need is the emergency insurance. But if you're only going to study for less than a year, you might think about having an additional for your own sake, because otherwise it could cost you a lot if something were to happen that is not an emergency accident or things like that.
But it's not a mandatory document that is required to make your application.
As long as you have your letter of acceptance with that information of the emergency insurance for fee-paying students, then that's fine. Where we still have like 59 questions.
We are, I think, how shall we do it? Should we answer them by email, or should we just?
I see that a lot of, there are several that are the same as what we've already answered, like CSN, the Swedish Student Aid.
Yeah, so we could skip those.
Yeah. For Swedish students. Accommodation. In some accommodations, the rent for the spring semester is more expensive than for the fall semester. Why is there a difference?
For the autumn semester, there are 5 months, and for the spring semester, it's 6 months. Yeah.
Do I have to provide migration agency with information about my bank accounts if I'm an EU citizen? No. An EU citizen, you don't have to apply for a residence permit. That information is written in your letter of acceptance, again, that as an EU citizen, you have the right to come to Sweden and study and work without contacting the migration agency. citizens of Switzerland, you can come here and then apply for a residence permit. But everybody else who's from outside the EU and outside of and not from Switzerland, you have to have received the decision on the residence permit before you travel to Sweden. Do we have the option to choose how many people will stay in the dorm room?
Only you?
Yeah, in the dorm room, yes. You will stay there. In the dormitory, no. There will be the varies between the accommodations.
Does the university give out books, or are there books for every course?
I don't. Yeah, we can skip this because this is something you can send us email and we can try to see if.
I think that's something. I mean, usually, at least from a student perspective, we usually care a lot about the course books. But I've written one answer already, but then everybody can hear. You have to look for the books on your own. You have to order them online. There may be a very, very, very few copies at the library, so do not count on that. You have to order it online or buy it secondhand from other students. And there are Facebook groups for the secondhand buying and selling. So you will also be able to sell your course literature later on. And you can find out those names during the kickoff, or you write an email into the student union and we'll help you with that. But you will not get books in the courses. And there's no official bookstore here on campus. There are bookstores, of course, in the city center, and though they can also usually help you if there are difficulties ordering them online. But then you also have to consider the delivery time.
Yeah. So if you have, like Jasim, you said, this is recorded and it's going to be put on the web in a couple of days. So you can re-watch this, listen to our answers to the questions. And then if your question still hasn't been answered, send an email. If it is about accommodation, send it to the accommodation office. If it's about admissions or pathway or like that, send it to admissions office. So because we have answered most of the questions that I see are coming up again. So
I'm trying to read from the bottom, and I can also see what you're saying, that we have answered most of the questions anyways. So I think it is time we could wrap up. And if you have any specific questions, as Charlotte has mentioned, please do send us an email and we will try to help as much as possible. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining in today. And thank you all my panelists for coming in, for helping out with this. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing all of the students coming to us in August. And hopefully we'll have a great kickoff and great fun activities arranged by the student union. So I so much look forward to seeing you all. Thank you very much and have fun. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
bye.